What is going on, guys? We are the 5 Yard Pass. My name is Suddy, and this is Shyam, and we'll be looking at the last few days of Premier League fixtures. Some mad results. As a United fan, it's very hard for me not to say I'm absolutely delighted with the way things have gone. But still early days, isn't it, Shyam?
Yeah, so we're not even halfway through the season yet, and it's
Absolutely.
had so many
2 weeks and a
twists
week until
and
Jan.
turns, and the cream is starting to rise. Big win for City on the weekend. Big win for United to hang on. Southampton game, did not see that coming. Didn't see Southampton winning that, and you could see the reaction of their manager at full time, crying on his knees on the side of the pitch. That was how big that win was to him and to the football club. So well done to them. Rode their luck a bit, but yeah, 1-0 against Liverpool. Don't think many saw that coming.
I just watched it before getting on the video with you. He actually said, in terms of his long-term career, Klopp is someone he's struggled to take points off, even back in the German league. So that was also half the tears. Half of it coming from the year ago they lost to Leicester 9-0. He's done a tremendous job since, and although it's a very questionable win, I will say. I was saying I think Liverpool should have got 1.5 penalty shots. But you start poorly against a team that can defend very well. I mean, that's what you get, you know. So they rode their luck big time. Southampton did. Liverpool were a bit unlucky, but we'll get into that. So I guess we'll start with the Liverpool game.
We'll start with it, yeah.
Yeah, sure, why not? So 1-0, Danny Ings in the second minute, off a very nicely, like the commentator said, it was a nicely played set piece, and I'm sure they kind of semi-planned that, but Trent was again one of the best right backs in the league for the last 2 or 3 years. Was very poor, made a huge mistake, let the ball kind of come over and across him. I can tell he wanted to avoid the handball, but in doing that, Danny Ings got a beautiful finish, just chipped over the keeper, very instinctive.
It had to be precise. Like, to finish like that was pretty noteworthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Liverpool basically had about, from then on, 88 minutes, they had about 75 good minutes of football, in chunks, in about 10-minute chunks. But they just couldn't get through, man. And very unlucky they didn't get those penalties. And this puts them 2 points from the last 3 games in terms of festive fixtures to 5 points of the last 12, which it's early days, but they just don't seem to have. They just seem to be running out of ideas. 2 reasons: it's tiring to keep up the form the last 2 years. The second being teams figure you out. That's the curse of being the big team. Teams figure you out.
Yeah, when you're Goliath, people want to take you down. That's just the nature of football, isn't it? And Liverpool are Goliath at the moment. They're the team everybody wants to beat. They've already dropped more points than the entire of last season. So if you want an indication of how they're going, they dropped 15 points last season. They've dropped 6 at 12, so 18. Yeah. So
and arguably, of the 15 points, arguably, I'd say 5 to 7 of them came after they won the league. Like, they fucked around after they won the league.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they dropped 1 point in their first 27 games, or 2 points in their first 27 games.
Absolute madness.
That's Football Manager restart the game, read the game stuff. But
a couple of points. Sorry, go on.
One thing I did want to say is, Liverpool did play well in chunks, and they did get the game moving quite forward. And a lot of it was played in Southampton's half. They should have got one or possibly both of the penalties, but they only had one shot on target until about the 80th minute. But they didn't seem to be. They got the ball very well to the final third. They didn't do much in the final third, and it was quite a shock, really. It's kind of like the big bad wolf blowing on the pig's house. They just couldn't knock it down. The Southampton defended resolutely. Forster had a good game. The defenders had a good game. Trent, I think, set a record for the most misplaced passes. He had something like 38 misplaced passes, which is more than some players. More misplaced passes than some players have in an entire game. It was either a season record or an all-time record. It was the first time I've seen him play poorly, and it was quite. I mean, everybody has an off day, but I've just never seen him have an off day.
Yeah. With Liverpool, it seems when things go bad for them, it's a confluence of many things that go wrong for them, rather than one mistake. Does that make sense? Like, the whole team has to play really bad, because it was obvious that I thought the team played really bad, apart from the back line. So the point I wanted to make was, I saw the lineup and I was thinking Hendo and Fabinho, 2, let's say number 6s and number 8s, a 6 and an 8 really playing in the back. And I thought they did so well. I thought, man, Hendo, for someone I've talked so much shit about John Henderson, especially when he first came and how he had a weird running style, and Ferguson kind of said in his book as well that he'd never quite make it as a player. I think that guy's IQ is, I don't know, it's obviously with Klopp and having a bit of Brendan Rodgers influence as well. I thought they played magnificently, but the interesting thing was Thiago is by far and away the best passer of the ball, but I just don't think I think he's used to a certain type of, not a caliber, a certain type of movement, type of player that he will eventually get out of Mane and Salah that he wasn't getting yesterday. You could see he was trying to do things.
I mean, as good a player as he is, he hasn't played a lot with those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't blame the guy; he just hasn't.
Yeah, so it's not a knock on anyone's talent. It's a knock on in synchronicity. Again, the word, but you know what I mean.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Synchronicity. Yeah, synchronicity. So that's a couple of things for Liverpool. However, I'd like to reiterate what I said the last game against West Brom or Newcastle. It was Newcastle, sorry.
They drew 0 with Newcastle. Yeah.
They do the same thing again and again, and their plan A has been they've never needed a plan B, and I'm sure they do have a plan B, but they have to transition into that plan B much quicker, take the initiative, perhaps understand that, perhaps start with plan B this time. I don't know, in the next game against it's United. I hope they don't start with plan B against United, but the game after that.
you have a feeling though, let's assume even if United get a draw out of the Burnley game, they'll go top. So this is a proper top of the table clash, Anfield type stuff. I do think that Klopp will tweak some stuff for that game. I do think I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I think the beginning of that game is crucial because I do think there's a chance that Liverpool are out for blood and United are nervous, and that game could end quite quickly. But I do think that
absolutely.
I do think, like you talked about Henderson. I disagree slightly. He was good for a fill-in centre back. I don't think he will play. He's not like Fabinho where you could see him filling in for a season. It's more filling in for a game type of thing.
I agree. Yeah.
He did well enough, but he's not trained as a centre back.
When you play, I remember Scotty Miller for Perth Glory.
Yeah.
Was it Scotty Miller? Oh, no, Jamie Hanwell. Jamie Hanwell would occasionally go up front for Perth Glory, and when you play it once or twice, you disrupt patterns to what the other striker or the other defender normally knows. So Henderson was good for that today, disrupting a pattern which perhaps Walcott and Ings in the moment for that day was used to. He did
a job, but you wouldn't expect him to do the job every day in, day out. Yeah.
No. So where does this leave Liverpool, Shyam? Are we like, there's only an idiot would say they're not in the title race, but I'm saying, do you think all this is because of Van Dijk getting injured? I say that because the difference that Maguire has made, for example, as much criticism he gets, he's allowed the midfield to push on. He's allowed, with the right person, such as Bruno, such as Thiago Alcantara, you've allowed the midfield to push on without having to look over your shoulder. Do you think this is all because of the Van Dijk injury?
I don't think it's all because of the Van Dijk injury. I mean, as much as having a good centre-back or goalkeeper allows you to feel stronger, I mean, any team with a Ronaldo or a Messi would walk taller, wouldn't they? You got shit good footballers in your team. And Van Dijk is, I mean, he's the best centre-back in world football right now. Probably is, even without the cruciate in his knee. He's that good. but the reality is, I think he's, as much as he's a good player, they do seem to miss that talisman effect that he seemed to have in the team. So it made Gomez walk taller. Gomez isn't there now. I think Alisson's a bloody good keeper. I do think he walked a bit taller with Van Dijk around, and he's had to sort of carry that load of being that sort of holding that defense together. I suppose the one thing about Liverpool where technically it could affect them is that Liverpool's system is built around solidity from the centre-backs and solidity from that midfield three, and letting those, releasing the fullbacks. Like Robertson and Alexander-Arnold would quite often pass to each other across the pitch. They used to have competitions to see who gave them more assists and that sort of thing. Their ability to bomb forward together as opposed to just one, particularly with Liverpool's front three and the way they play a little narrow, deliberately, that's probably, I think, where getting Alexander-Arnold and Robertson up the pitch can be a bit of a worry. And also, I think I didn't really study them too much in the game, but you can you can question, like we do with Luke Shaw at Man United. You keep running forward, up and down the pitch, you might get injured. You might be, after a while, not going at 100%. And that the way that Liverpool play relies a lot on those fullbacks, providing creativity. It's almost like having two playmaking fullbacks in that team. Robertson's a bit more old school. Anderson's a bit more of a stylish midfielder playing at fullback. Sort of a Dani Alves 2.0, as opposed to Robertson, is a bit more traditional. But I think that's kind of where it affects them, because you can bring in someone like Henderson. Fabinho's been, I think, really good in welding the defense together, but it's kind of that freedom that they miss, and I think that makes the fullbacks more important. I think it makes Alcantara more important as well, because he's kind of the plan B. Keita was kind of supposed to be the plan B. Oxlade-Chamberlain, their ability to drive through the midfield from those guys, that's kind of their plan B. Alcantara becomes important in terms of his ability to string passes. I think that's where they need to try and compensate in that way, because the reality is Liverpool could go buy the second best centre back in the world in the transfer market, but they will still not replace Van Dijk, because he's in world football at the moment. He is one of a kind. Any team would miss him.
Yeah, he in terms of it's a very bold comparison, but he has that physical presence that Cantona had. Chest out, you're not getting past me. And number two, media darling.
Yeah.
Every team goes through periods of having a media darling. Bruno Fernandes would be a huge media darling right now, for example. Fernandinho, Kevin De Bruyne, those kind of guys.
Hey, look, even look at Liverpool, in Klopp's time, it was Coutinho, then it was Firmino, then it was Salah.
And if you're in a team that has the media darling of the moment, which was Van Dijk a year ago, I do think it was an injustice that he didn't win the Ballon d'Or as well. Everything just seems to kind of when Messi won it over him. So it was last year.
Because there wasn't one this year.
The year before, 2019, when he should have won it. You just feel there's this wave of confidence that kind of goes through you. In the same way, we'll get to the next game now in a second, but Chelsea, everyone's just hammering Fat Frank at the minute, as am I. There's these memes of like a Photoshop Frank, and he's this fat with like a little goatee, and it's like, please, sir, can I have another 200 million more?
Professor, yeah.
Look, it's Lampard. Please, Roman, can I have 200 million more?
Like Oliver Twist.
Yeah. But with the transfer market. So yeah, Liverpool. I was just going to look at the next game. Do you have it up there with you, Shyam?
Liverpool's next game?
Game after United. I mean, so they have. So Liverpool in a situation, for me, I think they're going to start hedging a bit more.
They got United, then they've got Burnley.
They got Burnley, and then Spurs. So
Burnley are not playing too badly. They actually got a decent run of form at the moment, Burnley.
Yeah, and so with Liverpool, their next 3 out of the next 5
the reality about Liverpool is, like, the next 3 games, they got United, they got Burnley. Burnley have they won 3 of their last 5, so they're doing all right. For a team in 16th, that's pretty good form. But Burnley can't score goals. They're still in single digit. They've scored only 1 more goal than Sheffield United. But they've still only got 9 goals for the season. But they're a hard team to beat. And that's where Liverpool's struggling a bit at the moment. They're finding it hard to beat teams. They've got 6 draws in 17 games. So that's kind of where I don't think Burnley could beat them, but they might nick a draw. And then Tottenham as well. Tottenham will be out for revenge after what happened last time. But the reality with Liverpool is
quite quick.
They could go out, spank Man United 4-0, and everyone will go, "Oh, here we go, normal service restored." It is a blip. 2 points from 3 games for a team trying to win the title was not good enough. They're scoring only 2 goals in 3 games is not good enough. But the reality is, we all know that they could just spank United when they play next time, and everyone was "Oh, here we go."
I have one more question. Something I was thinking about last night after the game. Liverpool has, in the last 3 years, I'm back to this because Liverpool has gone through this kind of 80 and this kind of BC and 80 period where since they got Klopp, it's just been pure ascension, and they still are the one of, if not the second best team in the world. Do you think there's a dislikability about Liverpool right now because of the way the manager complains about penalties, about subs, and he complained about 5 subs but doesn't even use 3? Complains about this and that. I still like Klopp. I think he's quite likable, but do you think the team has become a bit dislikable? Also because when you're champions, you're just dislikable.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of it to do with being the champions.
Okay.
There's a period in the early 2000s, everyone hated United. And then when Jose came in and started winning everything, everyone liked United again. It was pretty interesting. The only sort of even Arsenal as the Invincibles, or Michael Jordan when he was at the peak. No one liked Michael Jordan because he was always winning. I think there's a bit of that. I think Klopp plays the media game quite well.
Okay.
I did see. I forget which game it was, but there's the exchange he had with Roy Keane on Sky Sports. Have you seen that one? Where Roy Keane, he said, in this game, they were sloppy in certain moments, and Jurgen Klopp comes in. But hear that a bit earlier. I heard Roy say, we're a bit sloppy. You calling us sloppy, Roy? And he had an exchange with Roy Keane.
I'm going to look that up. Yeah.
I forget which game it was, but it was a Monday night game that they played. They won the game, but they had certain moments where Roy thought they won 100%, which I think it was an early season game. But I think he plays the media game quite well. He does need to be careful about complaining about penalties because his greatest strength is that he does bring his emotions to the surface, but talks in a very clear way. So if he loses the ability to talk clearly, then that's where everyone's going to go, hey, what's going on here? Even Pep Guardiola, you look at, the look at me when I'm talking to you thing, he lost it. Yeah. And that's what people remember of him. But Guardiola's quite calm and very straight with the press. Klopp does that as well, but he's just got a big smile on his face. So he needs to just make sure he doesn't lose that. I don't think there's an unlikability about the team. I think that the issue is more around Klopp keeping his nerve, and I think it's more around just they're champions, so everybody sees them as the team to take down.
Last thing, before we get to City, the game was the Arsenal game. They won 3-1, and then so Keane goes, "You're sloppy." Then they lost to Arsenal the next game, and then they lost to Villa 7-2. So maybe they were sloppy. Okay, next we'll move on to the Chelsea. I'll just give a few little bits here, but the Chelsea
City Stamford Bridge,
City game, excuse me. Yeah, so Chelsea City at Stamford Bridge, 3-1. It was a clean, ruthless, how shall we say, assassination of Chelsea.
Did you ever watch the second episode of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back?
I obviously have.
I felt like I was watching that movie. If you watch, they say Empire Strikes Back. I'm not a big Star Wars man, but they say that one's the best of the three, the middle one. But what happens in that is that the Empire actually does, there's this sense of inevitability in terms of the way that they go around things, and then Han Solo ends up getting encased in whatever it was that he's encased, and they sort of won the day, and it kind of felt a bit like that. Like City started the season shit, they didn't play well. They then got their defense sorted, but they were struggling to score goals. But they looked against Chelsea like the 100-point team, the 100-point team.
That was my point as well.
They looked like they if they play like that every game between now and the rest of the season, they'll win the title. There's no team in England that will keep up with the team playing like that. But especially the first half. I think they took the foot off a bit the second half, but the damage was done in the first half. It was really I felt a bit dark watching it, to be honest. Like I said, it felt like the Empire was striking back.
It's like when Thanos talks about him being invisible.
Yeah, he should have gone for the head.
One of the shifts was something that you said, I don't know how long ago, but you said it on here. I think the two biggest shifts, the defense, which I think we both agree with, and the second thing which you picked out was Gundogan being pushed up a little more into more of a Bruno Fernandes role. You could call him an 8.5 or a false 10, something like that. And I think, if I'm not wrong, De Bruyne played up front. Yeah, De Bruyne played up front.
De Bruyne played as a false 9. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was playing more central when he pushes more to the right usually. I thought Bernardo Silva, was playing up front, but he wasn't. Gundogan playing in that role has changed things going forward, and credit to Pep for making that change, because what you're doing is you're not changing his system. You're telling a players to change for you. You're telling a 28, 27-year-old guy, Gundogan will be close to 30 now.
Yeah. Gundogan was in Klopp's Bundesliga Dortmund teams, Borussia Dortmund teams. Like he's
exactly
been around. He's a very good player. He got injured a bit, but very good player.
Gundogan hasn't stopped pressing since he's been in the club, and I think he did quite well. I think he's doing very well. Look, Chelsea, I think the talking point here is not City, because you almost feel business as usual. The talking point here is Chelsea. So let's get to it. 200 million, all these players. Lampard just hasn't seemed to gel them since their first 10 or 12 games in all competitions. They seem to have dropped off. I'm in the camp where unfortunately, he's at a club where he knew what the business was. You make a deal with the devil almost. And to compound with that, you're one of, if not the greatest player of all time at that club. Chelsea have to give time. Lampard.
Oh, as in Lampard was one of the great players.
Yeah,
I think
as
you're
in
saying one of the
compound.
Chelsea players
As
was
a
one of
as
the
a
great
manager
players.
not doing well, it hurts even more for Chelsea fans, and you're almost under more scrutiny because you're British. You're a British manager in England. You're a legend of the club. Not the way Ollie's a legend. Lampard's is a proper
Yeah, he's
multi-title
not a
winning
cult
legend
hero.
as
He's a
well.
legend. Yeah.
Yeah, cult hero, exactly. I don't even know the question to ask you, but I mean, what are your thoughts on it in general? Let's build up a kind of argument here for why he should stay, because I know you think he should have time. Knowing you.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I always think that a manager should get 2 years.
Yeah.
So the transfer window when you arrive, the next summer and the summer after that. I always think that because I think it takes that long to properly put your philosophy in. So I
But he hasn't.
applaud
But
United
Sham,
for doing it with Solskjaer.
your argument there means he should get 3 years with Lampard
Well,
because he's only
yeah,
had the one. Yeah.
I'd say 2.5, but I
Okay.
said at least 2. I'm not saying 2.
Okay.
I meant at least 2.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting stat someone brought up. They've not beaten a top 8 side. They're ninth on the table. They've not beaten a top 8 side this season. So it's almost as if that individual brilliance that the players have got gets them past teams. I remember talking about the Newcastle game and the way Werner just ran through the Newcastle defense with the ball. It was like he was running without the ball. You know, that sort of thing. That's not a system thing. That's a player playing bloody well type of thing. But they have not beaten big teams. And that's where you need the synchronicity and that sort of thing to work. And that's what gets you over the line of those moments. And when you bring in a whole bunch of players, yeah, I get that the expectations go up, but the players do need time to figure out how to play with each other. You know, when Jose Mourinho came into Chelsea, the season before Mourinho came in a year after Abramovich. So Abramovich came in, Ranieri was the manager.
Claudio was there, yeah.
Yeah. And they actually had the best defense in the competition, and they had to figure out how to add some attacking players. So they bought guys like Scott Parker and Frank Lampard. I don't think he became before Abramovich, actually, but they bought guys like Damien Duff, Joe Cole, Robben, all those sort of things over a period of time. And those players figured out how to play with each other. Drogba took a good 1.5 seasons to figure out how to play in the Premier League. You know, and he ended up being a club legend. Thierry Henry did the same. Thierry Henry scored in his first 2 games and then didn't score for 6 months. And the thing is, the reality is that it's great to get these good players in, but when you've got a lot of young players coming in from overseas, what support structures do they have? What stability do they have? You could adversely affect the players by moving a manager on who supported them coming to the club as well. I think that you have to give him time. It's such a crazy season as well to make these types of decisions. Like to make a decision in this season with the way that the last season finished, the way this season is shorter, the fact that you've got Euros at the end, everything's been so chaotic. You kind of need to give managers a bit more rope than what you would. I think Lampard will get a bit more rope simply by being a cult player who's done really well for the club in the past. And particularly well under Abramovich as well, as opposed to being, a great player from as opposed to being like a Marcel Desailly who played well in the 1990s, Yeah. But you need to give a guy time. And the reality is, if they win, the spotlight goes off them. I mean, it was on Ollie for a while, and then they started winning. It was on Arteta for a while, started winning. Oh, who's not performing? Oh, it's Lampard. Let's put the spotlight on him. It was on Tottenham for a while a bit. They had a couple of bad results as well. So the only way they'll get the spotlight off them is by winning. But you probably need to sit Lampard down and be very clear about what you want to achieve for the rest of the season, I think. Then the reality is, how far? They're 3 points off 4th. So they're not, as much as they're 9th, and that's really not very good at the end of the season, they're 3 points off 4th. Having said that, there are teams in 4th with games in hand. But at the same time, everything's just been so topsy-turvy this season that you want to be very careful about making decisions like that.
I guess that's a good point, though. The individual brilliance has definitely outshone. But what's concerning for me, for Chelsea, is that we thought they fixed the problems. We went on about how we thought they fixed the defense. We thought they fixed the keeper. And in Mendy, I think they have a keeper that can become world-class. He's definitely knocking on the door of a great keeper right now. They just they seem to run out of ideas. And you talk, man, Shyam, I know you don't keep up with the socials, so like maybe you're not seeing the kind of the clips that I'm seeing or whatever it is. But Ziyech, Werner, and I mean Havertz, Ziyech, Werner, Havertz, Kante. Well, let's talk about the first three. You're talking about ballers, Shyam. You're talking about bringing in three Marcus Rashfords with more technical skill in those guys, and it just goes to show it's a very interesting exercise in going to show how much chemistry, what it means to have chemistry, what it means to step up from, let's say, a league with half a pace slower. And an example of that would be Bruno, who stepped up, I'd say it's two steps slower in the Portuguese league. And it just goes to show how much what hard work means, what it means to coming in at the right time in your career. You talked about Torres coming in.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Torres coming in.
Fernandes is another example, but Torres is a great example of someone just at the right time.
He was emotionally ready. He's a man. You could see Fernandes, Torres. I mean, Torres, I fucking hated him playing as United. Turns Vidic in and out. He was a man. He knew what he was about. He's a proper player.
Footballer. Yeah.
And, if we had got, let's say, Cavani in 2 or 3 years ago, we would have got a similar thing. But you're getting in three guys. They're proper ballers. They live in the matrix, as I call it. But they're just not men. They're not there to take the step up with the team. Perhaps in 2 years' time, we'll be laughing at the argument we made here because Frank Lampard won an FA Cup and he's saved his job. But I think they get off his back, and well, they won't. But the time is what Abramovich needs to give him.
The thing is that they're all a similar age as well. Like if you look at like Barcelona's midfield three, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, they're all different ages.
Yeah.
Like Xavi was the older one, then Iniesta, then Busquets was younger.
2 or 3 years apart.
Piqué and Puyol were different ages. Yeah,
it's actually a really good example. Yeah.
The idea of bringing three incredibly talented footballers, but all the same, similar ages. Pulisic as well is a great footballer, similar age. Abraham, good footballer, different age. There's not a lot of variance in terms of their ages, and you need guys like Giroud or Kante or Jorginho to really sort of guide them.
The danger there that I can foresee is players leaving when the things don't go right in a year or two. Pulisic getting that offer from Madrid. He's like, I can't hang around with guys my age. I need to go to the Madrid who has the variance in age, who has the variance in experience. That's the danger I see. That's what happens when you're a good player, a world-class player, and you don't win titles, you're moving on. So that's the danger. Chelsea, they have to go win something in the next year or two, whether it's the Europa League. I wouldn't
worry so much about Pulisic. I think it's more the South American players that tend to go. They're the ones who are quite happy to sort of get up in arms and move around, like the guys like Carlos Tevez, for example. Like he was so loyal but to himself.
Yeah, loyal to himself. So that leaves Chelsea very much. I mean, look, they're not lost. They're ninth, 17 games, 26 points. Very much in the hunt for, let's say, 5th, 4th, 3rd position. Few results going away. Man City, on the other hand, 2 games in hand because of that coronavirus scare. Leaves them in 5th, 29 points. If they win their 2 games in hand, they go into...
They would pass Liverpool if they win their 2 games in hand.
That's not.
And they would be a point behind United, assuming United win their game in hand. So it's game on, and
it's game on.
You kind of feel with City, like I said, there feels that sort of. I just felt the sort of sense of inevitability about that performance, and the play. You could see in the play celebrations. You could see there was no passivity like that. I said, and I think after they beat Southampton, they were playing well in moments and doing enough to win games 1-0, but this was really like, playing a whole game the way that they would play certain moments, and that's how you win titles. They played with a verve that was quite scary. If you're not a Man City fan.
Yeah. Should we move on then to the Villa United game? So Villa beat United. Let me get my game up here. 2-1. Goals from I'm just
United beat
right
Villa.
Jesus Christ. United beat Villa. Excuse me. Goals from Bruno Fernandes and Anthony Martial to open the scoring, sandwiched over Bertrand Traore off a Jack Grealish assist. Again, the inevitability of that. Look, we'll get into the penalty argument in a second, but again, grinding out a result when perhaps they didn't play particularly well, but stand-up performances from Eric Bailly. Big time. And if, United fans have said it about Pogba, said it about Bailly, if you can get a string of games together, especially by you have a very good defender. You have a kind of guy who lives in his own head, but is unbelievable. And he adds he's perhaps a stopgap. Let's say he's sitting in Tuanzebe's place for a couple of years because everybody's lightning quick. He's classy, he's athletic, he's Cote d'Ivoirian, and he played magnificently. He was brilliant. And then the last minute block against I don't know who puts United up to second. Yeah. Okay. Could have been Watkins. Puts United up to second. A win against Burnley puts them to top. Now, United, man, a year ago, if you told me this at the start of the season, I wouldn't have laughed at you because I said United were coming second. But I could be wrong, Shyam. But we're not going to talk about
third,
that.
But I had them.
You had them top four.
I think I had City, Liverpool, United. We'll look at that in the next video. We'll do a bit of
I'm going to go look back at that video.
Half season wrap and see where we are in the next one. But I think that's ideal. City, Liverpool, United. So I wouldn't be too far off. Who did you have to win, by the way?
Fuck off. That was a serious question.
But I had.
So the question I like
Bailly. The problem has always been his fitness. It's great he started 4 games in a row, but then you start thinking, well, is he going to get injured in the next one? And the next one's United got the game against Burnley next, but they've got 2 games in between. They've got a League Cup semi and an FA Cup game. You'd think he'd get rested at least for the FA Cup game. You'd want him to or manage his game time accordingly. The thing about Bailly is that he does make the other guys better. He makes Maguire better. I think Maguire likes having his pace there, and Maguire just looks a bit more matured. Wan-Bissaka looks more assured as well. It's not a coincidence, I think, that Wan-Bissaka, he assisted Martial against Chelsea last year. I think it was in February, 2-0 win at Stamford Bridge. And again, as well, people give Bissaka a tough time because he's not Trent Alexander-Arnold going forward, but I think he's actually 4th or 5th in terms of assists for United players. So he does get up and he does... he's got something like 4 assists this season. Okay. I haven't got the stats anywhere, but I remember I saw it in Housen's channel.
No, keep going.
The top sort of players with the assists. And he's actually done quite well. I think what he doesn't do well is he doesn't do enough decoy runs to create space for other players, as opposed to getting his cross in. He's got to be a bit more Gary Neville and a bit less David Beckham, funnily enough. I never thought I'd say that, but yeah. But it was a good cross for Martial. Martial's got a proper striker's goal. I can't... The funny thing is, it looked a little ugly, but I mean that in a good way. He was prepared to do the ugly work, Martial, to get the goal. I couldn't see Rashford or Greenwood scoring that type of goal, funnily enough. Just getting in there and throwing himself at it. Yeah, I don't think they would have scored a goal like that in their careers so far. But good work to get in front. The penalty was a penalty. The players... Do
you think so?
The Villa players sort of run into Pogba's leg, which has made Pogba's leg hit his other leg.
Okay.
So it was probably, to be frank, it was probably less of a penalty than Liverpool's penalties. But perhaps all 3 should have been given, the 2 from Liverpool and 1 from United. But I do think it was a penalty. And Bruno's gotten 10 penalties, I think, or 11 penalties in his time at United.
He did the business on that penalty. He did the business on that penalty because Emilio Martinez is a very, very good keeper. And he's going to go places, that guy. If he decides to leave Villa, I think most clubs in the world would want him because he's only 22 as well. But to put
I did think about after the Wolves game. I think he did very well in that game, which was a local derby for them.
Did you watch back that penalty? I think you'd agree it was almost unsavable how much in the corner it went into. It almost went into the side netting. Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you. Man. Like I'm happy to see United playing well. I'm happy to see them in second place, obviously, or as Gary Neville put it, joint top. But but I'm getting a bit. I don't think they play well enough, long enough to win the title. Frankly, they could very well do it. I don't expect them to, but I think they need to play better for longer. They're sort of doing enough as opposed to
United at the minute feel like United at the minute feel like a subprime mortgage loan, right? Like you're leveraging too much happiness. You're leveraging too much happiness. You're waiting for the bubble to pop. If it doesn't pop this week,
as long as the default rate stays below 8%, we're fine.
Yeah, and then a whole bunch of fans are classing them AAA credits and selling them to other fans as the best team in the world, right? It feels like that. You're just waiting for it. You're looking at it and you're just like, oh, when's it going to pop? When is it going to pop? The reliance on Bruno is one thing. The getting away with a couple of choice referee calls here and there. The coming back from behind, but we seem to have weathered every storm. And people, you can talk about all the skills, all the managerial tactics, all the players you want, but there is an element of luck, and the luck Liverpool had last year. And I define luck as when you see opportunity that no one else sees, the way Liverpool did last year. I don't mean luck as in God-given luck. There is, I call that grace, right? United have luck in places that no one else had luck this year, because the pace in which they enter the penalty box, for example, the number of times they enter the penalty box, and with who, they're getting more penalties than everyone else. It's not a coincidence. There has to be a point when you can't say, oh, it's just luck they're getting penalties. It's about the way they approach the box. It's why they're getting penalties.
It's the way they enter. It's the intent which they enter as well.
Liverpool score more times when they enter the box.
Your Greenwoods, your Pogbas, your Rashfords, your Martials, all quick plays.
Quick feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say the point. I love the stats on this, but when Liverpool enter the box, do they score more? Do they get more penalties? Perhaps United don't score enough, so they're looking for penalties more, or they know how to get those penalties more. Whereas Liverpool don't need the penalties because we score every time we enter the box. Most times you enter the box. Same, I'd say it's probably more so for City in the last few years.
When you have a low block, a lot of teams put a low block against United. So a low block means you're basically defending on the edge of the box. If a player gets past you, you turn, you're sort of lunging from behind. You're just asking for a penalty, unless you're Bailly or Twanzebe and or Bissaka and you can tackle perfectly. You're asking for a penalty. You know what I mean?
And you see, Oli has instilled this mini or tiki-taka light version between Bruno, Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. They have this, and I put Juan Mata in there as well.
It's Arsenal light, isn't it? Like Henri Perez and Cole.
Yeah,
it's Arsenal light.
Yeah. So to kind of sum up, I guess there's something brewing at United. I don't know what yet, but it seems you just feel this you kind of feel Ferguson coming back in. And I tell you what, Darren Fletcher, did you know Darren Fletcher got asked? Well, he's been employed back in the first team.
He was coaching the under-16s, didn't he? And he got a step up to the first team squad.
And I was watching, do you know of Stratford Paddock? There's this, I think he's Indian. I don't know if he's Indian. I don't know if he's Caribbean. His name is Jay. He's this bald guy.
I've seen him do videos with Ronaldo.
Yeah, he's with Ronaldo Brown, you mean, the young
I've seen them do videos together. They're quite good.
Yeah. So Jay, apparently he was saying that, what's his name? Ollie has invited, Gary Neville and, no, not Gary Neville, Ryan Giggs and Roy Keane to come back to training ground to have a few words with the boys and things like that. And I think very much that,
sorry, Roy
of all the people, yeah. And I think he himself knows. I think the players know. You saw the reaction of the games. They know there's something coming. There's something coming if they do what they have to do, put their head down. And the fact that we can go into the next two games and lose, and Ollie's job won't be on the line. I'll put it this way: if Ollie goes and loses the next two games, Watford and City, because he sacrifices big players, he plays the Ethan Lairds and whatever it is, I think most fans would be like, okay, fine, that's fine. Let's get back to the league. There's almost this like, let's get back to the league. And just goes to show how far he's come, how far the team's come. And fuck me, man. Bruno Fernandes has just transformed this team. You talk all you want about Ollie, but Bruno Fernandes is Roy Keane and Ronaldo reincarnate into one.
He's got the touch of Scholes as well. And I don't think the fact he's wearing Scholes' number is not a coincidence.
Oh, by him, no. He's very calculated, man. And the guy
as a footballer, he reminds me the most of Scholes technically and physically. But he's up here. He's Roy Keane. Yeah.
And I had always had this impression of Bruno being this very like quiet Portuguese kid. I say kid, he's a bit younger than me, but Portuguese guy, very kind of like, oh, I'll just take it as it comes. If you watch there's a video going around now of the Everton game. You know when Fernandes slid to assist Rashford just through the legs of Holgate and Keane, I think it was the Everton goal. It was a shit. No, it was Everton. It was Everton. Wait. Whoever it was,
Bruno scored twice against Everton and set up Cavani.
Rashford scored against. It was Leicester.
Oh, the one where he sort of fell and reached it with his foot.
Yeah. Sorry, it was Leicester, not Everton. And Bruno runs to Fernandes, Rashford, and goes, "Did you see it? You see it? My assist." And I was like, "Damn, son, that was the most flukiest thing." but he likes to claim that. So he's got the arrogance, he's got the ego, and he's got the performance to add to it as well.
He baits them apparently. Like he says to Rashford, my show, you never score for when I pass to you. You never,
Are you serious?
He's like, yeah, like he does it to wind them up.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to say about him was about him and every time United have gone on to win the league, any team has gone on to win the league, you can almost pinpoint the player that set themselves up for it. Cantona, putting a moment being putting Keane as captain, Ronaldo later on, Van Persie for that one season. I'm not saying they're going to win this year, but he's the catalyst to what could be a couple of trophies in the next few years.
Yeah,
and that's my rant. Over.
The only thing I'll say, I agree with what you're saying. If I was to liken United to a car, there are a lot of people thinking they're getting in fifth gear, sixth gear, and they're on a run. I think they're still in second or third gear. I think that they're.
You think so?
I think they're getting away with a bit too much to really get. Like, I'm
absolutely.
I'm excited, but I still think they're getting away with a bit too much. And I think that there's more. They need to bring more because there's going to be days where there's not going to be that luck and that opportunity. I think they need to play. Like I said, I think they need to play at a slightly higher level for much more often because their best is very good. They've had patches like the West Ham game where they got on top of them. When Everton, when they went a goal down, they went back on top of them. The last 10 minutes against Newcastle where they got 3 goals. If they could play that level for longer, I would be more excited. But I think that I think they're getting away with more than, say, a Liverpool, for example. Liverpool seem to be a lot more. They seem to be getting punished for their mistakes more than United, and that could change. You just never know. So
yeah.
I do think that the team is capable, but I think the team is further off than what second in the table with, again, an equal top of the game in hand indicates. And we've had a lot of teams this season that have risen to second, and we've gone, oh, great. And then Chelsea were there, Everton were there, Tottenham were there. So United need to show that they're more than those teams and really kick on. They're doing enough, and I'm worried that enough might not be enough some days.
I agree with you. Yeah, no, like I said, that's the economy kind of analogy. I think every fan everywhere is just waiting for United to topple the way Spurs did, the way Everton did, the way Villa did, Southampton did.
But I do think
touched the summit for a couple of days.
I did pick that top 3 of City, Liverpool, United. I do think it's turning into a race between those 3. I do still see it ending up that way. In terms of City, Liverpool, United, I'll stand by that for now. But I think that gap is starting to open up a bit. Tottenham had a really good win against Leeds. That game turned out exactly how we thought. Leeds played really well the first 20 minutes, couldn't score, and then they got thumped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because Tottenham controlled it. It was a bit of a box. Leeds are a bit like that boxer looking for a knockout, and Tottenham a bit like that boxer looking for that jab. And they just out-jabbed Leeds. And made it count. Leicester, again, win. They just keep doing it. But,
relentless, isn't it?
Yeah. Southampton, obviously, big win. Everton lost their first game in 5. So that was a bit of a demoralizing. I have a colleague who's a big Everton fan, and he was just actually, I think his expectations went up. I never had seen him so down. He's just, they're playing like shit. So, but to lose against West Ham would be a bit of a blow for them. So I do think that those 3 will come. I think Leicester and Tottenham are still coming, and you never know what to expect from Southampton. But there is some semblance of shape starting to form, and I think that it's going to come down to those 3 with Leicester and Tottenham sort of chasing.
It is a touch late, isn't it? And again, we can point to all we know that the usual suspects and the factors as to why it's a bit late. But typically, it does take shape around Christmas at 18, 19, 20 games when it is Christmas. But now it's the 5th of Jan, and it's 15 to 17 games in that range. It's a bit late, and obviously we know why. But the next month with big teams playing each other, I think Man City have done themselves a huge favor by beating Chelsea. And they're kind of looking at that Liverpool United game and going, I hope it's a draw.
Is it? No, City have a quite soft next 5 or 6 games. I think the next 6 games against the bottom 5 of the bottom teams. 5 of the bottom 6 or something like that. I think Palace is their hardest game of the next 6. And Palace.
You're talking about league, purely league. They do have a very easy 6 games. So it's Brighton, Palace, Villa hard, West Brom, Sheffield, Burnley. But then after that, they have Liverpool, Spurs, potentially revived Arsenal, Mönchengladbach, West Ham, and Man United. So they have 6 fairly easier games and 6 very tough games. The Mönchengladbach game is going to stretch them.
The reality of football is, Ferguson didn't have the greatest record in big games. He didn't win every single game against a Liverpool or a Chelsea or a City or whoever. Even that, and I found this quite interesting. That team of the late 90s, when you look at Wenger's Arsenal that won the double and then United won the treble after that, those teams in 3 seasons played 10 games against each other. Arsenal won 6, United won 2. So that Arsenal team, that's why, and one of those wins for United was that FA Cup semi, where they were man down and
Ryan Giggs
got their goal in extra time. So the reality is, you don't necessarily need the best record in big games. It's good to win them. It's even better not to lose them. It's good to not lose them, but it's even better to win. Yeah. But you win titles by not dropping anything against the teams you should beat. And City have got a great opportunity actually to really go through the gears, get themselves set up for a great run during the season. And people forget that there was a lot of disruption at that club. Mendy got in sort of trouble with his whole Instagram post. Was it Instagram or just the footage that came out on Instagram?
No, it was
5 first-team players because of COVID. Sorry.
Yeah, Edison being one of them. They're not allowed to say the players' names anymore, apparently, unless the players say it themselves. If I'm not wrong, the club's not allowed to say the names of the players. Pep was saying something about that in the pre-game thing.
Okay.
Did they say who the players were? But I think it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. Like Edison was one of them because they played their reserve keeper against Chelsea. But I don't think they're allowed to.
I thought it was more about Mendy not being able to say Mendy's name or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but they did have a few players missing, which makes that Chelsea win a bit scarier. I just want to before we kind of close off. I want to say I think Pogba has been fantastic in the last few games as well. Interesting. It's since the comments have come out, he's played. Besides the Red Bull Leipzig game, he's played very well. It's quite interesting. There's 2 arguments here. One argument is people are saying he's getting ready to fire his agent and he's just keeping quiet till the end of the season. The other argument, which is for me unfortunately more likely, is that he's preserving his player value for when Madrid come knocking. But I thought he was like fantastic. Him and Bailly were fantastic against Villa. Just interesting. Just a thought.
With more solidity that he is proving a difference maker. He's not as exasperated and not trying so hard because he's got more stability around him.
Yeah.
And Bruno, like for all Bruno's goals and assists, his general output, Bruno is reaching something close to exhaustion. He's playing a lot. I think they took him off against Villa as well, just to sort of try and help manage his minutes. And he definitely shouldn't play against Watford in the FA Cup. So having Pogba to call upon, a motivated Pogba. Unfortunately, this season in question his motivation. He also had a pretty bad start to the season. He got COVID and had a very interrupted start to the season and all of that. But there's a lot going on around him. It's good to just see him shut up and play well. I almost don't care why, if you know.
Yeah. Look, you do what you want off the pitch. Absolutely. I feel the players have to build up their kind of off the pitch stuff because they have 6 to 8 great paying years. And then the kind of times before and after that might yield a lot less money. So they set themselves up. But at the end of the day, man, like you have fans who pay for cable TV, like myself and you, and you have fans who pay 3,000 to 5,000 euro a season to go watch you play. You do have an obligation to the fans, not to be a role model citizen, but to play the best you can. That's it. Just 2 hours a week or 4 hours a week, whatever it is. You do have a huge obligation.
And I agree with you. I also think it's the minimum. If you're paid to play football, you're paid to play at your best week in, week out. Like,
that's it.
I agree with you, but it's actually the minimum. The idea that you come off the field dripping in sweat, bent over, giving everything that you got. And I get that a player might be rested occasionally, but the reality is when you play, that's how you play. They say about Michael Jordan, he always said that there's someone in the crowd tonight that hasn't seen me play before. And so he would play for that fan, I always liked that. I always thought that was pretty cool.
We joked about a few months ago, sitting around having drinks, and I said a few of the boys, and they were saying how shit Pogba is, and I was coming to the defense and said, "Man, he's not shit on his day. He's just one of the best in the world." Blah blah blah. And someone came to me and goes, "Suddy, you're going to be a doctor, in a couple of months. What if you killed patients most days?" But someone said, "But Suddy on his day is a great doctor." On his day, he's a fantastic doctor, but he has his off days. I was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like,
It's like
Sham,
the
on his day, he can create shell companies for cartels, but he's a shit accountant most of the time.
It reminds me of the Miracle on Ice. Like 9 times out of 10 they'll beat us, yeah, but not this
Yeah.
game. The Pogbas like 9
Yeah, I
times
know
I'll
you're
lose,
right.
but one game. Yeah.
The base of it all is, yeah, look, you're paid to play, and it's good to see him. It's good to see nothing surrounding him right now is negative. And I always liked Pogba for who he was. I thought he's quite a good character. It's always been the agent. So nothing from his agent the last few weeks, nothing from him. Let's carry on, see what happens.
I think the expectations that come with a price tag, but still talk about that price tag. You know, like no one talks about the fact that Ronaldo costs £80 million. You know, it's a lot of money because he will outperform those expectations. The expectations that come with Pogba's price tag, he's not managed to shake those off.
No one talks about Mbappe's 222, Neymar's 222, Mbappe's 160, whatever it was, because they perform. Granted, a slightly lower league, but they perform. You know. Yeah. Shyam, any closing thoughts for the weekend?
No, there's actually a break now for a week. The United Burnley game comes in. First time in a while there's actually been a break, so we'll see what happens with the.
We might do a little half-season video.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to do a half-season review.
Readjust our predictions. Build fresh predictions out there.
You can readjust your predictions, and it'll be good to see the big games in the League Cup. I'm really looking forward to United City, especially after the way City played. I just want to see how United will take them on. Let's keep an eye on Scott McTominay. Shit player, but plays well. But those teams are well different from meeting a month ago in the league. You know, they're both quite passive. I have a feeling they'll both have a go. And being a cup game on a neutral ground, I'm looking forward to that. And of course, the FA Cup. The third round of the FA Cup is normally like for the English Football League. It's their day of days. You know, you've got teams from all the 92 professional teams and all the non-league teams that come in and play each other. So that'll be interesting for what that brings.
Perfect. I've got none from me. I think that was quite a good discussion there. As we stand, I'll just finish off here. As it stands, Liverpool, United, Leicester, top 3. We've got Spurs, Man City, Southampton. Just below that, all within touching distance. 8th. We can even say from 10th to 1st. It's 7 points that separates. Arsenal just out of that 10 points. So it's a tight league, man. Tight league, and it's barrage of football, and with the lockdown coming up and all that, I hope they don't take football away from us, because honestly, it was terrible the last time. 6 months without football. I don't think I can do that again. Great chat, Shyam.
Our thoughts go to everyone in England. They're going to the 6-week lockdown. 50,000 cases a day. I mean, I was so fortunate in Perth. I don't think there's been any community transmission for about 9 months.
We went into lockdown just on Monday, Shyam, ourselves. 6 weeks, 6,000 cases.
So Ireland as well.
Ireland as well.
Wow. Is it like a stage 5 like England?
I'd say we're joking around calling it stage 6 because we can't. They're going to announce tomorrow, I reckon. The health service not the health service, but the health task force for this is going to probably announce 2 kilometer limits around your house. You can't leave within 2 kilometers of your house.
Oh wow.
So it's dark days, man. I mean, people are dying, but thank God the numbers are just so low for deaths. But there's a whole nother discussion, which it's very dark to talk about. But
it does give some perspective, because we love our football and we love seeing our team do well, regardless of what we think our team is. But there's a lot more going on in the world rather than whether Pogba should have had a penalty or not.
Absolutely. And as much as we enjoy this discussion, it's it's dark days. But do your best to keep your mental health in order. Watching football, and whether it's watching football, watching Netflix, whether it's anything. Everyone's got their own way of keeping a bit sane. So God bless everyone.
6 months worth of videos you can watch.
On that note, we are the 5 Yard Pass. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like what we talk about, please like, subscribe, comment, engage, whatever it is. You can find us on Instagram as well at 5 Yard Pass TV. My name is Suddy. This is Shyam. Keep football simple, and as always,
keep passing, guys. Cheers.